All right, welcome everyone. My name is Rob Vanderwood, the Mayor of West Haven, and I'm going to call this meeting to order for our West Haven City Council meeting. Today's December 7th. It's about 6:10 p.m. Sorry for being a little bit late getting started. We went over a little bit in our work meeting, but we'll get started here. We're going to start out with our opening ceremonies. Our Pledge of Allegiance will be by Councilmember Schwab, and our prayer or moment of silence will be by Councilmember Morse.
Will you please rise and repeat the Pledge of Allegiance with me? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our dear Father in heaven, we are so grateful for this day. We are grateful that we can come together as a body, a legislative body, and make decisions on behalf of the members of our city. Father, we ask that you guide us in making those decisions, guide us in making decisions that will benefit our city as much as possible. Father, we also ask for your blessings upon those who serve our country, who serve our city and our county, our law enforcement, our fire department, and those that help members of our community. We also ask that you continue to bless us with moisture over the next few months, and we ask that you bless those that have come today, that they may be able to arrive safely home. We say these things in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you very much, Councilmember Schwab and Morse, for that. We'll move on to item number 3, public presentation. This will be for residents attending this meeting. Will be allotted 2 minutes to express a concern or ask a question about any issue that is not on the agenda. No action can or will be taken on any issue presented. Do you have anybody that would like to come forward? Just please state your name and your address, please.
Mayor and council members, my name is Scott Berry. I live at 3532 South, 3500 West. I respect all of you. I've been in municipal government for about 30 years. I was Public Works Director for Roy and for South Salt Lake, and City Engineer for Holiday, Harriman, and Bluffdale. You've got a problem. You don't have a fire department. You don't have a police department. You are in the development business. And my dad taught me, if you're going to be a carpenter, you got to buy a saw and a tape measure. You got problems here. Mayor, you know there's a speed bump at 3500 West and 4000 South. I talked to the city engineer then, and I talked to UDOT. They invited me to the final inspection, and I was out of state. If that ever gets fixed, the city's going to have to fix it. When Taylor West Weber put their water line in for their new tank, they had to repave 3600 South, and they didn't do concrete collars on the manholes, so there's a couple of potholes there will be for their, you hit those things and it jars your teeth. They started the Westwood subdivision, and we had 2 different weeks where they shut the whole road down for the whole week. And then it sat there without fixing the road. And I came down here and got Mike to go see what the problem, and he didn't even know that they had started. They didn't have a permit yet. Bottom line is, you need to support Mike and get him an inspector. And that's all I can say.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Berry. All right, is there anyone else?
Hello, I am Nicole Young, 5005 West, 4400 South, West Haven, Utah. And I am just here on behalf of Ann Kendrick, that was the chair of the Heart of the Holidays. We just heard that there was not a final report out on that, so we just want to give some feedback on how it went and how we enjoyed it. So this is all from Ann. She sent us a, a little thing to represent her because she was unable to come tonight. Pre-event, we just want to thank Lacey Taylor. She put in a ton of prior work. She was going to be out of town, so she, did all the phone calls, getting all the invitations out, took the vendors, got them in line, assigned Jeff out to make sure that the health department was called, and which they were called and showed up early, which was great, and made sure that everybody was there about an hour before the event. So thank you to Lacey for pre-planning all of that before she left out of town. Nicole for running and getting all the food and getting the youth council to come help prepare the 600 bags of hot dogs that needed to be prepped to save some time on the night of the event. So thanks to our youth council for stepping up and taking that. Sharon Bolos, who came and decorated the hall beforehand, helped with the vendors the night, and did all of the other little things the night of prior to the event, running around to make sure we were ready. First and foremost, we know Brock was sick. We missed Brock greatly. The night of the event went very well. We had very few hot dogs and very few donuts left, which was a bonus. So that means people came and showed up. It was helpful to have councilmen there to help salt the sidewalks because of the weather that day. Along with, we had a couple of just community members that were helping ice the sidewalks as well to make sure that we were safe. Thank you to all the council members that helped out with the hay rides, making sure that we had the hot dogs. Carrie worked her hiney off, so we know that several of you were not able to attend for reasons which are understandable, sicknesses, out of town. One thing that we didn't mention was they were asked to have a +1 come. We didn't have any +1s come, so it was a little short in the kitchen. So just kind of a feedback is if you don't or cannot attend the meeting, just make sure somebody can come in your place, because we were a little bit short-handed in the kitchen. Thanks to Jeff for being the hot dog czar. He took over, jumped in, did a great job for not doing it before. There was a concern with the Sojourn Church inviting the people to the congregation with the QR code on the candy canes that they were handing out. I believe that was addressed last year as well.
Nicole, can you repeat what you just said? Sorry.
So Sojourn Church was in our reading nook, and they were handing out candy canes with a QR code to their,
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
West Haven City guys, again, every one of those guys are awesome. They step up and always do a superior job. They never let you down, or they are always there. Very successful evening. We did have a couple of elementary schools that did not attend, I think maybe due to the weather or for whatever reason. But thank you for all of your support and making that event successful. We felt like it went pretty well. We look forward to doing it again. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was a fun evening. Really enjoyed. There was a lot of when I walked out of the building at 10:30 in the morning, the wind was howling. I was thought, wow, we going to have this or not? But it turned out pretty nice. Anyone else?
Lacey Richards, 4741 West, 4100 South. I'm here on behalf of my neighbor. Her health and mobility status don't allow her to get out. She has an ongoing concern with the streetlight that was installed almost a year ago at the corner of 4700 West, 4100 South on the west side of the road. It's that southwest corner. She's been back and forth with the city for several months on that. At this point, she's been told that the parts are available and here, but they need to be installed by Rocky Mountain Power, but Rocky Mountain Power has not been paid by the city. That light shines directly into her bedroom and prevents her from getting good sleep. She's got a lot of health concerns, so I'd just like to ask on her behalf that that be expedited. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you get that information out on that?
I was unaware of this issue, so I don't know if it's been dealing with it, Public Works or some other thing. We'll get to the bottom of it, though.
Maybe we could just request maybe an email, come with more information if we can. That would help us.
I'm not sure if she emails, but I'll pass that along to her.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, thank you. We'll move on. Number 4 on here is our upcoming events. We have our senior lunch bunch that is set aside for December 28th at 11:30 a.m. Really had a lot of fun with that. A lot of people show up. It's been a really fun event. We have our Howdy Hall with Mayor and Friends on December 28th as well. That's from 5:30 to 6:30 on, like I say, on the 28th. Looking forward to that. Again, is there any other events that we have coming up anybody wants to bring up? I think we're good. Okay, we'll move on to number 5 on here for council updates. Is there any council updates that anyone wants to share?
I have an update for the, excuse me, for the Youth Council. Tomorrow we will be finalizing who will be going to the local officials' day at the legislature. We understand that they are limiting the number that can attend, but they haven't given us a number that can attend. But I know that there will be budget considerations as well. It's $70 per person. And so, Emily, I will be asking you to register for us, and it will come out of our budget, but I will get with you a little bit later on that. But they are really excited. We did not do this last year, and so we're excited to get them down there and have a participation in the legislature.
We've been trying to get that to happen for a while and no interest, so I'm glad there's interest. That makes me happy.
Okay, any other updates from the council? Okay, we'll move on to item number 6 on here. Action on consent agenda. Item A is for city council minutes held on November 16th of 2022. Item B is city council special work session minutes. This was our discussion on our capital fund projects that we're moving on, and that was held on November 17th of 2022. Item C is for Sunset Kubota. That's for a new plow and I call it a salt slinger. That came out to $10,579. Item D is for Gardner Engineering for professional services rendered, and that's for $32,026.75. And item E is for Lakefront LLC for Baldwin Country Park irrigation revamp for $123,937.81. Any questions on the consent agenda? If not, I'll take a motion.
I will make a motion to approve the action on the consent agenda items A through E.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? We'll do a roll call on this. Councilmember Call.
Aye.
Councilmember Morse.
Aye.
Councilmember Schwab.
Aye.
Councilmember Dixon.
Aye.
And Councilmember Saunders.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries and passes on our consent agenda. Thank you. Item number 7, action on Planning Commission meeting recommendations. Item A is for action on Ordinance 33-2022 for rezone from A1 to C2 at 3613 South Midland Drive. And the parcel number is listed on here. And do we have someone representing this? Yeah, please come up and state your name and address, please.
Yeah, I'm Mitch Morris with Coldwater Capital. Address is 3135 South Richmond Street in Salt Lake City.
Thank you. How can we help you?
So, as the applicant, and I did talk to the seller's agent, Katie Bush. She said none of the owners of the Rawson ownership group or family would be able to make it tonight. But we did discuss this yesterday just to confirm that everyone is aware, but we would like to rezone that parcel from A1 to C2 as is obviously stated on the agenda, but is in conformance with the general plan as well, to really help continue the growth of the commercial corridor where the city wants to see it. And we hope to get some retail uses there along the frontage, and really right when you're coming into the city there off of the 2 UDOT roads, we think there's not a better spot for it. Happy to answer any questions that the council may have.
Thank you. Thank you for that explanation. Council, do you have any questions?
On here, the red line that's shown here going through that neighbor's home, I know that's brought up in the past, and it's not actually through their home. Is that correct?
It's incorrect.
It's not survey grade.
Okay. Just want to make sure that everybody knows that it's not going to go through their home, so,
Thank you.
okay.
Thank you. Yes.
And then we'll take the whole house.
You can see the fence line there is actually the lot line there. The current fence is there. If you can see, if you have an aerial view there. So thank you for clarifying, Councilmember Swap.
I have a question it's probably going to be for Ed. On these corner properties where we're going to have commercial, most municipalities will come in and put a concrete barrier between the lanes of traffic to prevent left turns in. In this situation, I know it's not part of the rezone, but hopefully we can be aware of that so that people flying through that intersection that already hit the brakes really hard, get rear-ended, trying to turn left into this future commercial property. If that's something we can think about there as well.
Yes, Midland is obviously under state jurisdiction, so we have to rely on what their requirements are.
Okay.
But very often, if the city does bring some concerns to them, they're very good at working with us to come up with a solution that's going to be good for the city and them. So.
Thank you, Ed. That was probably supposed to be to Sherry, sorry.
I'm just gonna come up to the microphones. They actually, on this property, they actually already have had initial conversations with UDOT about access and things like that. And part of the site plan, before it goes to the planning commission, they sit down with staff and we look at access and the impacts that it has on traffic. And anytime it's within close proximity to a signalized intersection, you know, I know Ed looks at it more closely. I mean, he gives everything obviously equal time and attention, but when things are that close to a signalized intersection and when there has to be coordination between the city and UDOT on the access in and out of the property, those things are given extra attention. They have already been told that on this specific parcel, UDOT is not going to approve an access onto Midland. So some of those conversations about ingress and egress and traffic impacts are already happening.
Excellent, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Sherry and Ed. Appreciate it. Any other questions I may answer? If I may, on that, we do have a rezone application into the city for the parcel directly to the south that is abutting this parcel. It's 1.35 acres there. And it currently does have an access for the single-family residential home. The application was just submitted on Monday. So there is, as Sherry stated, UDOT coordination that's happened starting 2 months ago. And we are in discussions with them and in aligning any potential access with the development on the east side of Midland that is happening there they have some retail uses, some pads, I guess, not exactly uses lined up, and then some mixed use there in the back there. So they have asked that we align those accesses if it was to happen, and obviously, yes, continued conversation will happen with city staff to assure that UDOT and everyone is on board. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. Anything else?
Mayor, I'll move to approve ordinance 33-2022 rezone from A1 to C2 at 3813 South Midland Drive.
Second.
I think it's 36, is it, or is it?
This
30?
font is so small, I can't even see
I
with
don't
my
know, I could
glasses
be
on.
wrong too.
36.
My eyes are numb from the temperature in here, so it's hard to see.
Our chairs are stuck to our eyelids.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Let's go ahead and do a roll call on this one too. Is this necessary on this one? Okay. Let's go ahead and, Councilmember Morse,
Aye.
Councilmember Schwab,
Aye.
Councilmember Call,
Aye.
Councilmember Dixon,
Aye.
and Councilmember Saunders.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Good to
Great.
go. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate that.
If I may just ask one quick question while I have your ears. We have on that rezone application for the property to the south, it is, the application states as a C3 zone. Due to limited frontage there's about 150 feet of frontage versus, and the lot is about 500 feet deep on the deepest part there. So it's pretty rectangular. I didn't know if there would be any initial thoughts. Our thought with the C3 zone was there's a few other there's more permitted non-retail uses there that allow us to maximize the retail frontage to where we can bolster the city. We can align incentives with the city for property value on our end, but also for sales tax purposes there as well. But allow some flexibility in the back because that parcel is so deep. I don't know if there's any initial quick comments, thoughts about that just before. I mean, we've made application, but and we've discussed some with Sherry there as well, but is there any initial thoughts there on that?
Well, we'll probably have to put this on the agenda for the discussion.
No problem.
But if there's anything that Sherry wanted to comment or anything on that particular one, she's welcome to. But at this point, until we get it on the agenda, we can talk a little bit more about that property.
Yes,
Does that
sir.
make
Thank you,
sense?
Mayor. Thank you, Sherry.
The only thing that I would say is I understand why they're requesting it, because I think we all know that even along our prime commercial corridors, there's less commercial viability the farther away you get from the center line of a major corridor. It's usually, unless you have a large scale, like big box type project or a grocery store or something like that, the farther back on a property you are, the less likely you are to get higher sales tax, like large sales tax generating businesses. I have not had really any detailed conversation with them about specific uses, but on that type of a project where the lot is really deep, I mean, obviously the house would come down. If everything proceeds with the development of that property, the house would come down, and they have a limited amount of depth that really is commercially viable. And the farther away you get from the road, the harder it is to draw the really high, nicer, higher sales tax generating businesses.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I joked about Chick-fil-A the other day. But I think it's something that is worth at least thinking about on a really high level, just for you individually to think about, just how we handle the commercial corridors, because not all commercial property, even if it's zoned commercial, is created equal and is going to be viable for the kinds of things that will provide a large benefit to the city. I haven't committed anything to them one way or the other. I haven't had detailed conversations. But I would recommend that just on a 30,000 square foot view, nope, not square foot, altitude. You guys know what I meant.
30 foot high.
It's been a long day and I've been freezing cold for most of it. Just from the 30,000 foot in the air view, maybe start thinking on a policy level about some of the stuff related to commercial development.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Thank you, Sherry. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. All right, we'll move on to item number 8 on here, presentation of our community center feasibility report, WPA Architects.
Mayor, I'd like to just take the opportunity to introduce the representatives from WPA Architects. We've got Dylan Hare, who's got the real face covering as our project lead manager, and we have Bruce Fallon, who is one of the partners and for WPA Architects, and they'll be presenting some of the findings as we've went through and met with the committee. I do want to recognize Alan Griffin. He's here. He was from the Arts Council, joined us for that. Sherry Bingham, Brock Randall with Parks and Rec, and myself sat to kind of help determine some of the utilizations and space. This feasibility study is to provide a usable concept in which we can apply for grants. So this is not the final design. It is something to give us a great direction for, and so we want to make sure that the council understands where we're at. The price estimating for this is underway, and we should have that in the next week. And so unless something goes a little crazy on the price estimate, we'd like to kind of go with this concept and bring it out. We'll bring it up on this meeting rather than waiting for the next, because as we prepare this and get consent to proceed or to make any changes, then that allows us to have time to adjust and get things ready for Sherry Bingham to submit and prepare the grant application. With that, I'll turn it over to Bruce and Dylan to kind of discuss. So, and I will bring this up on the overhead so council and residents can see.
Great. Thank you, Matt. Mr. Mayor and members of the council, we appreciate the opportunity to present to you. I apologize for the mask. My wife just finished COVID, and so I'm just trying to be cautious for everybody involved, and myself included, and spent 2 hours in the car with Dylan, so I want to keep him protected too. So,
we appreciate it. Thank you.
So it's been a privilege to work with your staff and Matt and Sherry and Brock and Scott and Alan as we work through these ideas and concepts. The process that we went through was first establishing what we call in the architectural industry a program, basically identifying the spaces that were desired by the city to have in this community center, how big they were, and so forth. And from that process of identifying the program, we then took the next step of creating a floor plan to develop the location of those uses and how big they are and so forth, and then from there developed three-dimensionally. So what you see on the screen is a site plan that shows the location that's proposed here just east of us from the City Hall, in line with the City Hall, to create a nice usable plaza space for city events that could be held in times that are much warmer than what we're facing tonight. And but the opportunity to kind of create that connection. And then just actually go back, Matt, if you would, just one other thing just to point out the way that the program and the planning process went forward. The east side of the community center is where we have a kitchen serving area, and so we felt it was important to put some kind of vehicular access on that north end there to make it so that a caterer or some other group could come in and provide their things that they were bringing for the event. So now you can move forward there. And so I'll let Dylan take a gander through the floor plan description.
So like Bruce said, we developed this program with Matt and some others. And so some of the program elements obviously were a large multi-purpose room that can accommodate about 300 people for events that could be rented out, for wedding receptions or grandma's birthday or whatever it is. And then also that the city can use for things such as their art festival and other events like that. In the front office area would be for the recreation department, to have a couple offices there, a small lobby, and a kind of a waiting room area for them. There's also a classroom there kind of in the middle that can serve as a conference room. It can also serve as a bride's room for a wedding that has access to this multi-purpose room. Included in there is a stage or a platform for events, for
if somebody's up there reading a poem or whatever it is, that they can be kind of a little bit elevated so that they can see out and be able to communicate with the people there. A warming kitchen or serving kitchen on the back that Bruce mentioned that has access to the outside so that caterers can easily come in and drop things off. And then kind of just the others, kind of that west, or I guess that north side is more just your back of house. You have your mechanical stuff on the back, some restrooms for public restrooms, and some storage spaces. Included in this, there is a second story for storage, just a mezzanine level.
Sorry.
That is just extra storage for the city that they can use. So one thing that was brought up a couple times in our meeting was that you can never have enough storage. So we're hoping that this could provide enough now and be able to provide for the future as well. And I'll turn it back to Bruce for the exterior elevations.
So with the exterior, we wanted to highlight the multi-purpose space as the prominent space there. And so you can see that's identified with that sloping roof. We show on the north, and we call it north even though it's facing north and south, even though it faces kind of southwest. But on the south and north ends of that multi-purpose space is a folding partition window door that allows you to open it up and have indoor-outdoor type connected activities. And so that's there, and to the left of that you can see the main entrance that's identified with a tall element there. And so with the remainder of the building, a little more subdued probably compared to the multi-purpose space. Matt, you can go to the three-dimensional views that kind of help you identify and see what's going on there. So at this point, we'd entertain any questions that you might have, and I'll direct any answers to Matt, I guess. No, I'm just kidding.
I really like how it complements this building. I think it matches it really well. I think it will make a great plaza for West Haven.
Great, thank you. Any other?
I especially like the area where Matt was circling when you first were talking. He was circling the kitchen and the bathroom area. Nobody noticed that probably but myself.
That's the heart. That's the heart of a facility like this, really, right?
One thing on the storage above, is that enough room for somebody to stand up in, or is it pretty short?
Yeah, it's a normal height. So we would
You or someone else?
Yeah, I'm talking about me,
Normal people.
height.
I mean, by code, we have to have it a certain height, 7.5 feet. So
There you go.
I think
You'll barely
you can
make
fit
it.
into that, right, Mayor?
I can squeeze in. No, that's nice to have that storage above too. It's really nice.
Matt, would you scroll to the first drawing there? My, I guess, concern is the layout of this arrangement right here leaves kind of a dead space of property there on the north end. What are the thoughts of usability of that in the future? I know this is conceptual. This program's just starting, but
This is, I mean, that actually came up during this committee, is that we've got all these spaces, and typically that filled on the northwest area has kind of been designated for a future police department whenever we did that. But there's been no master plan for this whole area, and so that was one of the things that Brock really brought up, saying we really need to look into it. Now, as we looked at this idea, one of the things that, as WPA was showing us some ideas, was to put an amphitheater at the back end of the building and build up an amphitheater of some kind to allow for public presentations and usages in there, which would be a nice complementary use of space in that area. So, part of it is there'd be a bit more landscaping. We'd try to keep that more native grass type. Similar to what it is, maybe even run some just field irrigation in there to kind of green it up. But right now, we do not have a master plan for the overall City Hall complex.
okay, thank you.
Any other questions or concerns? I know you're all cold, too cold, so you're like, let's go home.
I really like this. I think it looks good. I think it will certainly be valuable to our citizens, seeing as how we don't have anything. I love that one room can hold 300 people. I think that's well needed here. So I like the concept.
We did a similar project down in Enterprise, Utah, and very small city located just north of St. George. And the only place they had for community gatherings was a church building, and they had enough people who were not comfortable going into a church building, and so that this provided a similar community amenity that allowed them to have those kinds of gatherings for people who may not be comfortable going into a church. So it's been a well-used facility for them as well.
Oh, good.
I know costs have not been totally calculated yet, but do you think it's doable for the amount that we have around?
If you can pull out your magic crystal ball and tell me what
I know.
lumber prices will be in a year, but it's right in the range, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. I just didn't want to get our hopes up and then say, oh, darn.
So we have two different cost estimators working on this right now, so
All right.
it'll be good to compare and contrast their budgets. So
I like it. I don't think you can consider the classroom a bride's room. It needs to be attached to a bathroom if you're going to have a bride's room.
Exactly.
Good
Right?
point.
You're going to have furniture in it and things like that, not a classroom.
Might need
So-
to get a little more input in the future.
If you really want something like that, it shouldn't be there.
Well, we thought of something for staging, so people could come in, use a nice sized conference room if they just wanted to use a conference room, or staff and that. But also, if you're having an event, that could suddenly turn into a staging area.
Sure.
Maybe more of a groom's room than a bride's room, I guess.
Man,
there is a back door out of that room, so you don't have to go out in the multi-purpose room
yeah.
to access the bathroom. So that was one thought there.
That's where the getaway car will be. If you're having a bride situation there. Any other questions, comments?
I think it looks great.
Have no action on this
Thanks for
at this
bringing
time, but
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
okay, we'll move on to item number 9, presentation of Green Farms concept design report for the community center design, pond design, playground, and design for Nielsen Homes.
My name is Mike Flood. I'm with Nielsen Homes, 5617 East, 5617 South, 1475 East in South Ogden. Give me just a moment. I'd like to plug my machine in here. If it doesn't work, I do have a thumb drive, but if I can do this, then I can maybe drive as we go. The presentation I have for you tonight, I've added some additional slides besides what was presented or included in your packet. Our creative design associate who has done all of the work on the community center was unable to be here tonight, but he just recently sent me even an updated rendering or two that I think will be nice to see tonight. Let me just make sure I think I have to tell this to see it. And if this doesn't work, Matt, I'll may just hand it over to you. And then I'll just say click.
Okay.
Next slide.
Pull this one out.
There you go. I was afraid that was going to happen. I'm not real keen on the audio visual stuff, so I like to create and do that kind of stuff, but how to work it is. Oh, that's why. Is there somewhere this should plug into?
Oh, yeah. That might be why it's not working.
Wrong one. Let me try one more time. If that's all right.
Okay.
I was using
If not, I have it up and ready.
it may not work still, so we'll just let's just use yours. was hoping I could use my finger and point to some things, but I can just kind of describe it, and that's you, right?
Yep.
That's not me. Okay. Could you go to the very first slide? There you go. I just created a quick slide of the overall of Green Farm. I think all of the members of this council are aware of the various areas of open space. I haven't been one that's presented to your city council before. You're familiar with Jake Jones. He actually took a position with another company a few months ago. We sorely miss him. And then Brian Bayless, my colleague, was able to make it tonight. And so, but I know you're very familiar with Green Farm and the various open spaces that we're working on, and those that were addressed in the most recent MDA addendum. I've just highlighted the 6 areas of open space that are kind of called out in the Master Development Agreement. Area 1 is the central, I call it the center park area, but it's the central open space area you see there. And in a minute, I'm going to go through each one of these individually quickly and just kind of give you an update of where we're at. Area 2 is the southern detention area. The part in blue is what's been developed now, and the part next to it will be done as the attached patios along there are finished, and we landscape those homes. We'll landscape that area as well. Area 3 is the community park portion of the open space where the pickleball courts and the playground and the community center will be built or have been built. And then Area 4 is the northern detention basin area that we are improving, and then Area 5 is Parcel C Park, and I call it Parcel C Park. It's kind of the northern park in this area. It also has a large detention basin that we're actually improving with the Area 4 portion. So you can see a little green line right there. We're doing everything west of that right now, and will be completed by the end of the year. And then the rest of the area there, including the parking lot and the playground that is to the north there, is part of Parcel C, and that'll be done next year as part of the MDA. And then the area in orange there is Area 6. I'm calling that Green Farm Pond at Poulter Preserve. That's not a formal name, but that's what I've called it. So if you go to the next slide, we're going to kind of go through each of these real quickly. This is Area 1. All of the landscape improvements in here have been completed except for some sod right in the cul-de-sac area. We're going to be doing that here in the next few days. We've got some fill remaining to put in there. Next spring, we're going to need to do some improvement and or replanting of the park strips that were installed prior to this whole phase of development of the open space. It was done with the original landscaping. We will look to see if we can do more of the xeriscape. If we do have to redo it, we'll probably pull that out and do something that's more conducive to water-wise. We're doing that on the east end, or on the east end. We are doing that park strip in more of a water-wise xeriscape planting, and so if we have to replace anything, we'll do that, pull it out, and kind of flip the strip, so to speak. The shelters, the 2 picnic pavilions or picnic shelters and the water feature will be constructed by June of next year. Those are being designed and or worked on right now. We haven't got anything quite yet on the water feature, but as we get closer to these things, we'll submit them to staff, and they can shoot them out to the council just so you just get your input and feedback. But the remainder of the property has been hydroseeded, has been the portion that's natural has been seeded, and the sod areas have been grassed, and the bark areas and trees and all have been planted. If you could go to the next slide, please. This is Area 2. It's that southern portion. It's the southernmost portion, and it's adjacent to the sewer building there. That was hydroseeded last week. It's all planted, and the trees and shrubs are in. One of the things I'll just interject right now that relates to all, it relates to all the open spaces, is that before we deliver them to the city, we have an obligation to make sure that they're mobile, we've got a lot of just kind of cleanup and fine tuning that we'll do in the spring. When you hydroseed, it's a little bit of a messy business, and you do a lot of seeding, and there is some reseeding we'll do in some areas. We'll make sure it's fully established before it is turned over to the city in the condition that's maintainable. But if you wouldn't mind moving to the next one, this is Area 3. This is the community park, and I'll spend a little time on this because I have information to share with you. It says future pavilion, but that's actually the community center that was approved a month or so ago. We have the pickleball courts are installed. The grass and the trees around that have been completed, except for the grass to the south is not. That's actually part of the community center area that will be improved when the community center is built. We need a place where we're going to need to stage some materials and do when we start building that this year or this coming year. Parking lots in, the trees and flower beds are in. There's a few more shrubs that are being planted this week and next. That T hammerhead has been completed. If you haven't been out there, that stub street to the end of the road has been completed and is functional. And then we've got some more sod going in. But again, by the end of this year, within the next probably week and a half, 2 weeks, all of our vegetation will be in, and then there's just cleanup and some tidy things to tidy up until we get to spring. I do have lights that are still yet to be installed on the pickleball court. The lighting has been back ordered we ordered it about 6 months ago, 5 months ago. We've got most of the poles, but we're still waiting for one or two. But we have LED pickleball lighting for that, and then we have 3 LED lights that will be installed for the parking lot. If you wouldn't mind moving to the next slide, I'm going to go into a few. This is one of the renderings I just got sent. This is a little bit more of a graphical or rendering of the front of the green farm, the barn or the community center. The concept here is to have a farm look and to do that and to build a silo and have it look like it is part of either a current farm or a former farm. It's a historical type feel. The building to the right, that lean-to building that says Green Farm, I think initially it's planned to be just used as storage for the city, but it does have there's an ad alternative or the ability we'll plumb it so that it can have bathrooms, men's and women's restroom in there as well. That could be used for the playground and the pickleball court, besides using the community center ones that have exterior access. So that'll be built.
Sorry,
yes.
What's inside the silo? Is it just? Can you get in?
The silo will actually be, you can, from the inside. And when we get to the site plan or the floor plan, I want to show you what we'll do, but we'll use that as storage for tables and chairs, probably some coat. We talked about you could use some roll in and out coat hangers, that kind of thing. If you wouldn't mind moving to the next one there. This is a site plan of the property, shows the configuration of how the barn will sit in relation to parking. The T hammerhead, the area that says private plaza and private grass area, that area will be fenced in, and we anticipate it being fenced in with a privacy fence so that a private event could be held while other events are taking place outside of it. Again, there's future restrooms. We'll provide a sewer line and we'll provide water connection or access to that so that the concrete that's put in, the picnic area and all the concrete that's put in is not gonna, we're not gonna have to tear it up to have allow you to finish that at a later date. So, as I go along, if there's questions, feel free to. I'm just motoring through this.
I actually do have a question.
Yes.
Really quick. You had just mentioned the lighting for this. Are you aware that there's a light pole that's been knocked over?
Yes, you mean the one on the corner of, is it
Yeah.
37? Is that the road you live on?
It's right across from this.
Yeah, I think some of your city officials are already aware of this. One of my contractors' large side dump trucks clipped that as they hit the corner. They've been working with Rocky Mountain Power to get it. There's a problem there, and we may have to hire a private contractor to see if they can come in and get it fixed. And we are aware of it. In fact, the day it happened, I started calling all of my subcontractors. Finally, Tom Brewer with Castle Rock said, "It was my guy. I'm sorry. I just found that out." And so, anyway, thank you for bringing that up. We worked hard to get those in, right, Ed? And all of a sudden, we're just taking them out.
Lost one, yeah.
I apologize.
Well, didn't lose it. It still works.
Yes, it does. It just shines light horizontally.
Wrong way.
All right.
Hey, one
Any
other
other
thing.
questions? So the playground area is to the
One other
right.
thing real quick.
Oh, yes.
Matt, just to verify, on the restrooms for that, where the Green Farms building is over there, it says future restrooms. Is that our responsibility? It's plumbed, but our responsibility?
It would be our responsibility, yeah. So it'll be a structure, they'll have the, won't be furred out, it'll just be plumbed in there, so for future consideration. The reason why that we might do that, I mean, for current use, we might stage some of the landscaping equipment that would be dedicated over there in that location. One of the concerns that was brought up as we were talking about was a couple other communities have had indoor, outdoor accessible restrooms, and the outdoor accessibility people don't treat them as well as the event people. And so this is something that it gives us an option if we do want to make a little bit more indestructible restroom facilities for the pickleball in the park, and more or less just keep those restrooms in the community center for
Those
the interior
pickleball
event uses.
people, they get violent.
They do.
Yeah, and as you know, we have a budget that's outlined in the development agreement. While they're not coming down quickly, our purchasing team is working with our suppliers and subcontractors to see if we can get some pricing reductions and on various things just across the board at Nielsen Homes. And I think hopefully with this kind of softening of the market a little bit, that might prove well with that budget and this particular facility. So I can't say we could finish that within the budget, but what we'll do is budget out the community center and then see if there's additional funds that between the two contributions that would be able to finish it. So, would you move on to the next one, please? Yeah. No, so this is just a couple different views. This is a bird's eye view from the top, kind of show you how it would be laid out. We can kind of go through these quickly unless there's a comment or question. Kind of an oblique view from the east, and then this is an oblique view from the west, so the backside.
So where did you say the fence would be for our private?
That's a good question. The fence would actually be on the outside of those. You can see it on this one. It's not showing up on the other one, but see that fence line that's kind of next to the trees?
Okay, got it.
So it will actually be from that hammerhead, that'll be fenced off, and that'll be this private area. Now, if the city decided they didn't want a fence and they wanted to keep it more open, or they wanted to do like a semi-privacy fence, that would be really is the decision that the city could make. We had planned on a privacy fence just so that it does kind of create a little more of a private event area. After seeing the proposal for your new community center here, this is kind of going to be looked at as a different type of a community center, or one that's for a little smaller gatherings. Maybe it is more conducive to wedding parties and other community events that don't need the large building. So, all right, if you wouldn't mind, keep moving through this one. All right, so this is the floor plan. See if I can see. So if you look at the silo on the right, I'm going to kind of go from right all the way around. We have the silo is that round area. It'll be used for storage of tables, chairs, other. It will be. Does it say unconditioned? It is an unconditioned space, so it's not in the part of the heating, but it'll be conducive to the storage there. We've got women's and men's restrooms with an entry between those two, and there is exterior entrance to each bathroom besides interior. So you've got egress from either the outside or from the inside there.
So it's not altogether round unless it goes through the bathroom.
It is round. Oh, it's not quite round. Yeah, it doesn't continue to, because it's connected.
I just wondered.
It's connected to the building, so it's actually going to be built as part of the building. Yeah. That's a good question, a good point. We have the large gathering area or banquet hall in the middle. That entry has kind of a lower ceiling in it, whereas the banquet hall, in a minute I'll show you a rendering of the interior and generally how the roof structure will be made. But all of the mechanicals will be above that entry area and above that janitor's closet. So they'll be kind of in an attic space right above that area. You've got on the side, you've got those side halls, and those are we anticipate those being a kind of a roll-up door, so you could actually have an event that would take place inside and could migrate to the outside or be contiguous there. And then you've got a serving or a warming kitchen with both with entrance from the outside on the front of the fence and then outside on the back. We figure that caterers and others might want to be able to use those entrances to facilitate getting
So the
in.
dotted lines in the middle of the banquet hall and towards the rear, are they just support for the building?
Those are large trusses. So if you want to
They're
go
not
to
like
the next one, I
dividing
think
the
the next one
rooms.
is okay.
Oh, okay.
This is a crude artistic rendering of the interior. But it kind of gives you an idea of the exposed trusses
Okay.
that would, and we've toyed with the idea. How many of you been in the Monarch building in downtown Ogden?
Mm-hmm.
So in their large gathering hall upstairs, they have these old steel trusses that are just really cool, and they're painted black. And then you've got these horizontal members along the ceiling that are kind of a plank member, and then you've got rafters. Everything in there is painted white, and then the trusses are painted black with these big black, it's just a big black structure. We can't do that here. It's just not conducive in the budget, and it would be hard to replicate that. But the idea is to have some exposed trusses. Now, our design associate has suggested that we look at maybe with these trusses doing a more of a natural stain or a natural wood stain to them. They would be a built-up truss. So instead of a big thick truss that's made out of, because those are very expensive, we would do a build-up truss with maybe 3 or 4 2x trusses that are bolted together with brackets. You see the brackets there; they would have large bolts through them, and it would give it that same feel and look of a mass or a structure. But it can be done a lot more economically with a wood truss. The sidewalls, and I think Councilmember Swap, I was in a meeting a few months back when you asked the question about how would the interior be finished. Now, on the last slide and in the development agreement, there's a list of general, kind of minimal interior finishes. I think one of the things we're going to try and do with this budget is to do a plank wall, and a plank ceiling, so that you have more of a feel of a barn rather than just drywalled walls. Roger, our design associate, is not. I mean, he hasn't costed this all out yet, but we're hoping that within that budget we can do something that will give us that feel, that barn-like feel. The floor of this interior will be acid cure concrete, so it's got that, it's got a nice stained look to it, but it's and a finish on top, but it's a lot more economical than trying to put down a PVT or some other, or PVL, some kind of other kind of product. So, want to go to the next one. Are there any other questions about the interior of that? Is this the next one?
I think that's
Oh, okay.
beautiful, by the way, the
think it looks
interior,
great.
exterior, all of it. I think it's
Thank you.
beautiful.
I can
So-
tell you that Roger Bess, he's actually our VP of pre-construction. He has a really unique, or really talented architectural eye, and he's spent a lot of time on this. We're actually almost done with the construction drawings, and we'll submit them to the city here shortly for review and some to your staff. And I think we have a deadline at the end of the year to have construction plans ready. I think we want to start construction sometime February or March. We don't want to start it in the winter, just if we can avoid it. But I think he just spent a lot of time, and he has this interest of this looking just right. And so I appreciate his ability to do that. He's done a great job of helping us kind of put a lot of the vision that several people have had into what this should look like. So
It's a great concept.
Thank you.
I love it.
Thank you.
Can I ask you real quick?
Sure.
If we go back to the blueprint on the kitchen, what is
Yes.
the area that's marked with an X? I mean, you have your stove and your sink.
Dishwasher.
Between those, what is
I
that?
think that's a dishwasher.
Dishwasher.
Now, as you know, these public kitchens can't be used for cooking or for warming, and so and that could be, we if we need to configure that a little bit differently, if it felt there's not a lot of space, and it's not really designed to be an area to do a lot of cooking, maybe keep things warm. I kind of liken it to a church, whether it's a LDS or a Catholic church, where they have a small kitchen that's used for keeping things warm or staging kind of the food for the event.
Well, I just think you need to maximize counter space here. if we're not cooking anything, you're going to be bringing in a ton of stuff. You have counter
Yeah,
on
you've
the other
got counter
side.
on that other area.
Right.
Yeah.
But probably you're going to use a lot of counter space if you're bringing in a lot of things. So
So one of the
Just-
options would be is we take out one of those exterior doors and reconfigure some things. We put two in, one so that it was behind the fence and one in front of the fence. But that's something we could look at if we feel like, hey, one exterior door, it might be behind the fence, but the caterers can go through the fence and go in, or we could make the kitchen larger and expand it into that side hall. I think we're trying to keep it within that area that's, where the two exposed beam trusses are, so that it kind of are the exposed trusses. I don't know if you have any other thoughts of where we could put some additional counter space.
There would be the possibility of a rolling island or something of that sort where
Okay, that's
you
something we
could
could
walk
look at.
in and set things down or move it if you didn't need it. But
Yeah.
I don't know how big the kitchen is. What are the dimensions of the kitchen? Do you just offhand?
I don't have them. Well, up top, I think it's 14 feet wide. If I'm reading that, my boy, that's really tiny. Can you see that, Matt? At the very top?
14.
12 feet.
12 feet?
12 feet wide.
And on the other side, I don't know, but I'm going to guess it's 14 to 16 based on
Okay.
Just kind of proportions.
Yeah, I was just thinking of
One of my colleagues is listening and is going to be making notes, so we'll make sure that we can look at that, see if there's a way to get more counter space or serving space in there. Thanks for that. That's a good point. Any other comments? If not, we can move to the next slide, or the one after that. So this is Area 4, and I mentioned the Area 5 we're in the process of doing right now as well, this portion of Area 5. That Area 4, all the plantings have been done. I think there's about 8 trees that aren't getting planted right now because they did not ship them. We were waiting for those, but they're going to be on the south side, kind of the southeast end there. But all the rock channel is done, and the hydroseed, I think, is taking place tomorrow. I think we're hydroseeding Area 4. And then the detention basin to the right there, they've got a few more days on digging that and placing the cobble, and then we'll hydroseed that, plant the trees. All of the trails, all of the asphalt trails have been installed. There was one section that's a connector section from Area 1, which is the center area, to, is it 3750 or 3800, 3750? Or it might be 3700, that did not get asphalt. It's got road base down, but we sunk the asphalt machine. So if they don't get that in this year, weather permitting, then they'll end up doing it first thing in the spring. If we could go to the next slide. This is Parcel C Park, Area 5. The area, most of this is going to remain in its natural state. There's a lot of vegetation along. You've got the slough. Actually, the slough's further east, but there's a lot of vegetation that we're trying to keep. And Brock has worked with us on all of the open spaces, and particularly Area 1, the center area, where we've left a lot of the natural trees. And I say natural. There's a lot of the Russian olives, which are not favorable to many people, but they provide right now a real healthy habitat for wildlife, and we didn't want to disturb that. Brock was very adamant about, hey, if we can keep that and kind of keep a semblance of the natural space there. So we've done that. We've cleaned some of the areas up, and in the spring we'll go back again and look at what needs to be. We took some of the dead wood out and some of the down stuff, but I think you have a comment.
I'm just when you're talking about the Russian olives, I've walked through there a few times, and I don't think it looks bad.
It doesn't at all.
I never thought I would say that about Russian olives.
Tell me about it.
I think they're awful trees, but it really doesn't look bad. It looks pretty good.
When we told our landscape architect we were keeping those, he just cringed. It is it's considered a noxious plant here in the state of Utah. And if it's on public property, or if it's on federal or state property, they try to eradicate it.
Oh, yeah.
It does create a really cool habitat for,
I think it
for the
looks.
wildlife.
I
So-
think it looks great.
so that's there's a lot of that in this natural open space in Area 5. There is a series of trails. It's hard to see it on this, but there's a trail that goes all the way around that lower large area, and then another trail that goes on the northern portion as well, or that connects the northern portion through. So, and then there's a parking lot, and then there will be a play structure here. This will all be, I think this is all to be developed in next year's development plan. And we haven't submitted anything with parcel F yet. That's the property to the east, but we do plan to, there's 50 remaining units that we plan to develop in here per the MDA. And there will be a road that connects through to parcel F through here. So that's where this will go. It'll kind of connect the courtyard area, those townhomes, through the park to the parcel F remaining 50 units. So, all right, if you wouldn't mind going to the next one. This is the exciting one. And I have to, I won't spend too much time on this, but I want to tell you, I appreciate your staff. We've spent the last, I think, 9 weeks, Matt. Every week we have a meeting Thursday mornings, 9 o'clock, where we've met and talked about the development of this pond. And Matt has involved the Division of Natural Resources, Chris Penny, who has been vital in helping us determine how to build a fishery that would be sustainable and that he believes will be one of the highlights of their whole all the fisheries that they maintain. They do plan on stocking this with trout and with bass and bluegill. They'll be done at separate times so one doesn't eat the other. But so anyway, let's move to the next one. I think the next is kind of cool. It's kind of small, but I wanted to. This is the final concept design that we came up with. Just to point out a couple things, there were some things that were required by the development agreement, and that's what you see in black, that list in black. And I tried to highlight most of the things in red on the map that are add alternates that could be added later. One of those is a playground or a pavilion or a restroom. The restroom pavilion isn't in red, but that is part of the add alternates. Maybe a couple picnic shelters, the docks, and all of these things. And Matt, you might bring that up to speed at a later date. But I believe Matt and and Chris Penny with the DNR, they're working on a variety of grants that might help fund partially or in some cases wholly some of these add alternates. I think Chris indicated that a lot of the vegetation that they want to put in here that is fish friendly, he thinks he can get a grant to get a lot of that included, so or paid for. On the east side of that southern bank, there's an area that we've got fully vegetated, and the reason we've done that is that he felt it important that we create a spawning area so that this fishery can repopulate and kind of be sustainable. They'll continue to stock it, but that spawning area will allow the fishery to become more of a natural space than just this.
So that area would
Yes.
be shallower and have probably some gravel. and
That
stuff.
part will be shallow, have some gravel. It'll only be 2 or 3 feet deep. There is a plan. The next plan we'll see in a minute. It has more of the contouring and it shows the deepest part of this pond is 10 feet, and that 10-foot portion does come all the way to the southern tip there, and it goes all the way around the north. But then we've created these tables or these shelves. Those tables will be will be about 3 or 4 feet down, but they've been designed so that from a dock or from anywhere on that bank you could cast to that, and that area will be large part where the fish will kind of hang out. We've saved some downed trees, pile of downed trees over there. Every time I touch that, it turns off. Because they want us to put them in the bottom of the pond to create habitat, to create areas where the fish can hide, can do their thing. So, and then I'm trying to think of what else we've got landscape boulders that are planned. We have a large supply of landscape boulders that we've been using throughout the community, and so we'll have some of those that we can place around this and create kind of more of a feel where a little kid could stand up on a rock and cast a out into the water. The trail does go all the way around, and then there is the northern to southern extension of your main trail along the slough is on that eastern border.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Where would the water come in from the slough?
That's a very good question. So up right there, where he's got the cursor, that is a takeout. Now this pond is not a pond that will have water running through it. The city applied and received a diversion of water rights that they have on the slough. And so water can be taken out there. There will be a structure there where they can pull water out as they need it. And it'll probably be a structure that'll be automatic. It'll hit a certain level or whatever, and it can the pond will hit a certain level and it'll pull water out. And then it'll exit down at the southern end. So there will be water that could flow through it. It just won't be constant.
It can get additional water.
Yes, and if there's a large rain event and it fills up, I mean, it will flow out at a certain high point. Trying to think of what else. There is an aerator in this pond, and we actually had originally thought maybe there might need to be 2 or 3 to get some oxygen down to the deeper waters. And Chris Penny with the DNR said no, he felt like 1 would be not just adequate, but it should be plenty, and it'll be in the deepest portion. You can see where we've marked that, but that area will be part of that pond. Are there any questions about this? I can tell you again, the work that your staff and our team did together over the last 8 weeks. It's kind of fun to do this and to kind of, I mean, I like to fish, but I didn't know anything about creating a fishery until we started this process. So it's pretty cool. And Brock's had a lot to play in it. He is an avid angler or an avid fisherman, fly fisherman, and so he's wanted to make sure that we create something that will function well as a fishery. So I think about 80%, 70% of it, of the bank is fishable. 70, 75. Chris told us right at the get-go that 75%, you need to leave at least 25% of your bank covered. But 75% is a good number, so I think we've kind of hit that.
So covered with vegetation?
Yeah, vegetation, so it's not accessible. And a large portion of that, of course, is on that eastern side of the spawning area, so that those fish that are spawning aren't bugged, aren't disturbed. Yeah.
Well, maybe.
This trail will connect to the southern trail through Area 4, or Area 2. And it's this just south of Fields 4. Boy, I can't keep it all straight half the time, but again, I'm formally calling this Green Farm Pond at Poulter Preserve. We do have an obligation, the city and Nielsen Homes, to name that property the Poulter Preserve. It's part of our agreement as we're purchasing that, and it's being provided to us to build this. So we'll figure out a formal name, but
I love it.
oh yeah. Any other questions? Is there another? Well, this is just a contouring map. Kind of shows you there's been a lot of work done in creating different heights and depths of water and of area for fish to propagate. So
Yeah, that's great.
Just one point, just to do the trail in gray will be our typical. I don't need to touch this button. Asphalt trail up there. Then where it breaks off right here and services this north side, and right here it'll be concrete. And then this one will be more of a natural trail, like road base or whatnot, along this side. So there's going to be a mix of trails on there. There is a commitment by them to do the asphalt. They're doing the concrete on the north side specifically to allow access, ADA access to the dock and the parking and that area for those people.
Well, one thing we did include, and you can't really see it on the southern end of that parking, but there is a ramp. It's a boat ramp, but it's only for the fish stocking. This is not a body of water that they'll allow navigable vessels on it. So
Over here having a hard time with that.
I wanted to put my bass boat in there. I mean, that's perfect. Yeah.
did we determine that you could put float tubes on it?
We're saying no, but that's up for the
really
council
up to the
decide.
city. It's you'll end up setting the rules for this.
Yeah,
thing,
probably with the size of the pond, it probably is a good idea to keep it off. But
Paddleboard,
no
aerobics,
jet
I'm not
skis,
sure.
Ryan. I think that's everything. I had one more slide, but it was more just for reference if I needed to. It's the map that shows the areas that we're doing in relation to the MDA. We're excited. I know that it's been a long time coming, and I look at you, Councilmember Morse. You take the brunt of it because you live amongst people that we've built homes for, and the commitments were made, and we're happy that we're able to finish the fulfillment of something that was expected for a long time.
Yeah, I will say that I've heard nothing but positive things from those residents now that a lot of these areas are being taken care of. I'm getting comments all the time about how beautiful it looks and what a great job everyone's doing, and so I think the residents there are really pleased with the progress that they've seen.
It'll be really awesome next spring, and even so, we hydroseeded everything now, and in the latter fall part and early part of winter, so that it will come up thick in the spring, and we're excited. It's going to take. We're going to spend quite a bit of time in the spring just kind of doing a little fine tuning. It's not the most ideal time to landscape, but there's a lot of things with the amount of vegetation and the amount of plant material and things we were putting in. If we tried doing it in the summer, we would have lost it all. So in hindsight, I'm glad we did it when we did, but we're serving all our crews food in a food truck next week because they've really worked hard to get it done in some pretty cold weather. So.
Well, I'll be sure to wear some Carhartt over there and see if I can.
You're welcome to join us next Thursday at noon. So
we'll be there. So when will the pond be done? Do you think? When will this part?
The pond? That's a good question. I think the idea was we're going to dig it starting. We'd like to start January, early February. The best time to dig that pond because of the groundwater is going to be when it's cold. Right. The idea would be to dig the pond, get it contoured and shaped. Start filling it. It'll fill up by itself. One of the things we're going to have to do is we dig this thing. There's going to be an extensive dewatering plan that will be involved, and then it'll fill up. Probably take a good 4 or 5 months to fill totally. I think Chris indicated that they wanted to stock it with trout in September, October.
Yeah. What we anticipate is we'll have some stocking in the late fall of 2023, with the anticipation that we don't open it up for fishing until 2024. We've got to get them established, so we will have some signage out there, no fishing, and but have an anticipated almost grand opening for fishing where we have the mayor come
a ribbon cutting,
cut a ribbon,
ribbon cutting, and a food truck. Just so you know.
I'm really excited about this. I think it's going to be really great feature for the city, so appreciate you.
Thank you. They'll plant the bass and bluegill the following year. They'll wait a good
We
year,
anticipate the pond to be finished by the end of next year. So by the end of 2023, water should be in, landscaping established, but the fishing grand opening wouldn't be until spring, April, May of 2024. So.
Okay.
And we are following the counsel of the DNR because if we don't, it will fall on its face real quickly. We'll lose fish and.
No, that's great. Do that.
It's going to be exciting. It will be exciting.
I think it looks good. I'm
Thank you.
excited about it.
Thank you.
You guys have done a really great job on this. So
we appreciate your
it.
patience, and I realize it's we appreciate the patience the city's had. I've been with the company about 1.5 years. I'm involved with getting all this constructed, and it's just been a good opportunity to show our residents, the people we've built homes for there, that Nielsen Homes is committed to building a lasting and a wonderful community. So, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, we'll move forward. That's exciting. We're looking forward to all this getting done and completed. We'll move on to our next item on here. This is for item 10 for public hearing. What we're going to do with this, I don't know if this needs a pre-review before we open it to public hearing, or should we just open it up for public hearing? Thoughts on that?
Give a quick explanation as to what it is.
Thank you.
With prosecuting cases, I am required as the city attorney to provide documentation regarding a basis for the charges discovery. And because of technological issues and costs, I'm asking to have a fee schedule imposed so that we can recoup some of the costs to the city with prosecution. This does not involve indigent defendants who are provided those items free because of state and federal laws and case law.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you for that introduction. We'll be looking at 10 here, and for the purpose of receiving public input on adopting and accepting certain fees to be charged by the city attorney's office, I'll just need a motion to move into public hearing.
So moved. Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we're in public hearing at this time. If there's anyone here, or if someone on Zoom would like to get on. Okay. Seeing none, we'll move out of public hearing. We'll need a motion for that.
So move.
Second.
Second. I'm not sure.
I know.
Sorry.
That'll be
Take your
faster.
time. Okay, we have a motion and a second, right? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we're out of public hearing now, and we'll move on to discussion. Do we need to go ahead with the discussion on this now?
Yeah, any questions?
I don't have any issues.
I think we're good.
Was expecting this, so. I'm
What
good.
was that?
I said I was expecting this, so I think we're good.
So on this, we'll go ahead with the action on public hearing, adoption of ordinance 34-2022 for adopting and accepting certain fees to be charged by the city attorney's office. So if there's no other discussion, or if there is any discussion, please move forward, or if not, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance 34-2022, adopting and accepting certain fees to be charged by the city attorney's office.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? We'll do a roll call on this. Councilmember Saunders?
Aye.
Councilmember Dixon?
Aye.
Councilmember Call?
Aye.
Councilmember Schwab?
Aye.
And Councilmember Morse.
Aye.
Okay, motion is approved, so thank you very much on that. We'll move on to item number 12.
Mayor,
yes.
if you wouldn't mind, if I could suggest, we have the presenters for item 14 here. As I believe the council might have some questions on the procurement policy, I was wondering if we could reorder those two items.
Okay, is the council okay with that?
I'm good with that.
All right,
Great
let's
idea.
go ahead and move forward with that then. And that's on the procurement. Okay, on item 13, is that the one you're?
Looking to
referring
do the stormwater impact fee
14.
analysis, 14
Okay.
or 15.
All right. Let's go, is there any explanation you need to give prior to?
We do have some discussion from Ed and from our consultant who helped prepare that.
Okay, let's go ahead with the discussion, then we'll open it up for public hearing.
Thank you, Mayor. The council is aware that cities are empowered under state law to impose impact fees for assessing cost for impacts of future development on city infrastructure. And tonight, we're asking the council to consider adoption of an impact fee analysis for stormwater infrastructure. We have, Ryan Christensen's here from Gardner and Susie Becker from Zions Finance, who did the technical reports for this, and they can get into more detail specifically. But just as a general introduction, the process generally is consisting of two phases or two parts. The first part is the development of what we call an impact fee facilities plan, and that's more of an engineering analysis and study, which in this case for stormwater, it assesses our existing infrastructure, looks at our existing capacity, what our future capacity needs may be, and then identify any specific projects what might be required specifically due to the impact of certain new developments. Once all that information is put together and the projects are identified, costs are determined, and then that report is handed over to the finance side, where they actually prepare what we call the impact fee analysis, where they actually convert the cost and the amount of project cost that can be attributed to future developments into a defined impact fee based on certain criteria. So this is a very general brief overview, And if the council has any specific questions on the engineering portion of that and what projects have been identified, Ryan can certainly address those, or we can just ask Susie to come up and start with the actual impact fee part of this, and if there's any questions regarding about how those costs were developed based on the projects, we can get into that way also. So however the council would like to handle that, but,
Okay.
so if not,
this is a situation where do we need to go ahead and do public hearing first, or can we just have a discussion first?
We can take care of the public hearing very quickly, and then we can have the presentations to take care of.
I think that'll work fine. Is everybody okay with that? Let's move on to the public hearing side of it and see if there's anyone that wants to and get involved with the public hearing for the purpose of receiving public input on adopting the stormwater impact fees analysis, the IFA. I guess we'll need a motion to move into public hearing.
So moved.
A second.
Oh,
Man,
I wanted a motion.
Emily, did you get that? Oh, man.
Did we get a second? Because
I said
I
sorry.
was still spinning a little bit. Okay, we got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're in public hearing. Anyone like to speak on this? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to closing public hearing. Take your time. We'll need a motion to close public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other further discussion? All right, we'll go ahead and all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, we're out of public hearing, and we'll move on now to item 15 for action on public hearing for the adoption of ordinance 35-2022 for adopting the stormwater impact fee analysis. So we'll go ahead.
All right. Susie, would you?
Great, thank you very much. I think we have a PowerPoint that we emailed that you're going to be pulling up. But just while that's coming up, I'll just tell you quickly, and I just have a few very brief slides, but impact fees, keep in mind as we go through this, are one-time fees that are charged to new development to offset the capital costs associated with the storm drain facilities. They have nothing to do with the operating costs, and they can only cover the cost of the system improvements, the larger project improvements that serve the entire area, not just one little development. So by law, you have to have two documents, an impact fee facilities plan and an impact fee analysis. And on the next slide, just simply, and Ed did a great job of explaining this, the impact fee facilities plan Ryan did is the technical engineering type document, which identifies the level of service, what actual facilities we need to maintain that level of service, and the cost of constructing those facilities. Then my job is in the impact fee facilities plan to take those costs and to share them proportionately amongst new development, and then to look at any credits, considerations for how it was financed, which can make a little bit of difference in the fee. So let's just, you can have two main components to an impact fee. You can have buy-in to existing excess capacity, or in a city like yours with rapid growth, you're going to need a lot of new facilities. So we have a lot of new construction costs. So if we go to the next slide, this will show us you're growing. The demand factor for stormwater impact fees are developed acres. We need more capital facilities for the runoff as we develop more in the city, and you can see the projected growth here. Next slide. I think this one is all Ryan's credit. Level of service, these are current levels of service, and we want to maintain those service levels. So on the next slide, I think is where Ryan came up with all of the capital facilities and their costs. So I'm not taking credit for any of your work. I'm just showing it up here because it forms the basis of what I do. It's kind of the numerator in this equation, and then we're going to divide into it the number of demand units to come up with a cost. But I want you to notice a couple of numbers on this slide before we move on. We have a total project cost, but then we have a percent of costs that are impact fee eligible, costs attributed to future development during this planning window, and that's about 2.1 million. And then if you look at the very furthest column over, there's almost 1 million of those new construction costs that will benefit existing development. And we have to be very careful with those that we don't charge new development twice, the whole impact fee in the next to last column, and then also charge them for the additional 1 million. So you'll see a gross fee being calculated here, and then a little credit to make sure that we don't charge twice. So if we go to the next slide, there we go. There we take that total cost for new development, and we divide that out amongst all of the growth in the developed acres. And here we came up, and then we see the credit that I mentioned, which is about $100 there per acre. And this is a maximum fee per acre, $3,500. So if you had a quarter acre lot, residential lot, you would divide that number by 4 to come up with the fee. Third acre, half acre, however the city chooses, to put that into its ordinance form. But that's how the fee is calculated. It is pretty conservative, average from what we see in other communities, but every community has its own fee depending on what its costs are. I think that's the end of it. And we may have one more slide here with the credit. I included this one after all, just showing you how we calculated that credit mechanism. That $96 that you saw is the average of these future payments that the new developers are going to be making over time to help pay. So their impact fees are going to pay for their portion of those new costs. But you have those costs from existing development. They're going to pay more through stormwater rates or property tax, however it's structured, over time. And so we just have to credit that. So they're still paying the same amount of fee. It's how they pay it. Some at the building permit counter and then a little bit over time through the higher rates. And I think that's the last one. Yes. Any questions?
Any questions, council?
Awesome.
That was fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we've been waiting for this for a while, so we're excited to get this up and going, completed. We get any other questions at all? Ready for a motion if anyone's ready to move.
I make a motion to adopt ordinance 35/2022, or sorry, is that?
Yeah, you're right.
35/2022, adopting the stormwater impact fee analysis, the IFA.
Second.
Actually, we need to do a little amendment to the ordinance.
Oh,
The ordinance doesn't state the fee.
so we're adding this to the ordinance? We've already had the ordinance, we're amending the ordinance?
It's right
Well,
here.
No, we just, there's no fee in the ordinance, so
The fee needs
we
to
have
be
to adopt
stated
it with an amendment.
In the amendment.
Okay.
Yeah, if you look in section 3, it
Right.
says, impact fee assessment to new development. We need an amount as to what,
So is that the
So what is the motion?
total gross
500 per
impact
acre
fee?
or whatever it was.
Yeah,
Per acre.
3,563.09.
don't know if that's the question.
Okay, so,
So hang on just a sec. Let's ask Matt, what do we need to do here exactly? Or
Susie, do you have any suggestions? You deal with these a little bit more. Is this just adding in that amount? I mean, what we're looking at is it just says the impact fee assessment to new development. Is that a reference to the IFA study, or do we need to actually state $3,526.69 per acre?
I'd ask your attorney. Usually we see the actual fee put in the ordinance, but
Oh, could you step up to the microphone? Sorry.
come up to the microphone so we can hear you. Thank you.
No problem.
I'd ask your attorney to be safe. Usually I see the amount in the ordinance, but I'm not an attorney and I don't know how they want that
Great
worded.
answer.
I
That's what I
want,
would've
I want the actual fee in the ordinance, and because that's how we know, that's how the staff's gonna know
Yeah.
what
Yep.
to charge somebody. So
That's
that
what
was
I
the
usually
question.
see, and you can get different copies or drafts of the IFA and it can be confusing.
So to be clear, the fee is $3,526.69 that we should be adding to the amendment.
is that, or,
That's in table 8.
Can we,
Okay, I'd suggest you could reference table 8 as well.
so my question is, are we amending the ordinance to add
Can't we
this?
just add it to it? We
or
don't have
is
to
the-
amend it.
This the
I hear
ordinance?
you.
Let's rewrite the ordinance.
Can't we just add it right now and not amend it? Make it part of the motion.
We just have
Can't we,
to
Emily?
make it part of the motion, don't we?
That's what I'm saying. It doesn't have to be an amendment.
Okay.
And then that can be added in before the mayor signs it.
Okay.
Okay.
All
do
right,
that.
then, going back, I move that we approve ordinance 35-2022, adding.
before we do that though, Mike, I do have a question. Is that a suggested number? Is that the number we have to use, or can we change it a little bit?
You can change it. That's the maximum, though, that you can charge legally.
Okay, all right.
We want that number.
We want the maximum. Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Okay, did we get that down?
She hasn't finished it.
Let's go ahead.
Okay, what is it called? The maximum per acre?
Table 8.
I would say an amendment to,
Nope.
on section 3, that to continue with that, where that colon is, and the findings of the impact analysis shall be $3,526.69 per acre.
Okay. I move that we approve ordinance 35, 2022, adopting the stormwater impact fee analysis, which shall be $3,526.69 per acre.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. I have one more change on the document on section 6 on impact fee credits. Just on the second paragraph over there, it says city county instead of city council.
Sorry, that was my fault.
That's
Well,
what
we
I
weren't
was-
going to call you
I was
out.
going to blame
but-
Amy anyway, but
Mayor decided to.
All right.
hey, we have a motion and a second. Thank you. And any further discussion on this? Let's do a roll call on that. Let's see, we need to make sure. Yep, ready to go. So, Councilmember Dixon?
Aye.
Councilmember Saunders?
Aye.
Councilmember Call?
Aye.
Councilmember Schwab?
Aye.
Councilmember Morse?
Aye.
Okay, item approved. Thank you for your patience. Sorry. I'm sure you're warm enough. Jeez.
Toasty in here.
Thank you very much, though.
Thank you, Susie.
And thank you,
Ryan.
Amy, for pointing that out so we didn't have to
We
start
got
over.
too far down the road on that one.
I appreciate that, too.
And Ryan got out of speaking on that one, so he got lucky.
Yeah, we can do that. Is that who we're waiting? Okay, let's see. Is Ryan still here? No, he left. So, but Ed, we can go ahead and do 16 and then come back to 12 and 13 if we want. You want to do that?
I don't know. Ed, do you want to go
Good
home
with that?
sooner than later?
Let's go ahead with action on resolution. Let's see. On the right of way of 30. This is resolution 36-2022. The right of way acquisition for 3300 South and for 3 parcels. You have someone that wants to talk on that a little bit?
Ed, do you mind?
I just don't have the actual parcels and the amounts with me. I know they're in the packet, but this is just a.
If you want.
It's one question. I don't think they were marked in the packet.
Emily, you can correct me if I'm misremembering, but I believe it's the Hatley, the Truba, and Harms parcels. And this is just a continuation of the process we started a month or so ago, as we're getting close to executing agreements with individual property owners along 3300, coming to the council and asking for authorization to accept the offers that have been made on the city's behalf by our acquisition agent. And again, we have, at this point, 3 more for the council's consideration and approval. And I believe that's the item, parcel number 12 for Harms, the amount of $5,500. Parcel 13, Truba at $9,800. And parcel 18 for the Hatley Family Protection Trust, which is $6,700. We're having another follow-up meeting early next week. We're close to getting the rest of the parcels closed out, so hopefully by the time We come back, we'll have the rest of them ready for approval, and we'll have all the acquisitions we need to proceed with the actual roadway construction in the spring.
Emily, can we verify that that's the correct ones? I think, were those the ones I signed for today? Okay, so that's why those are different. Okay, thank you. Want to make sure. Okay, thank you.
And how many more do we have, did you say?
1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8.
8?
8, correct. One of them is actually, it's the same property owner. They have 2 parcels.
Okay.
One is actually Rocky Mountain Power, which we don't expect there's an issue with. One is actually with Aspire Point Development. They have some frontage there. And then the remaining ones are just some residents mostly on the north side.
Are they okay with it? Are they upset
We're-
about it?
Yes, I think we've had some difficulty in getting some contact with a couple of the property owners. They're property owners who rent the properties, so that's been a little challenging in some of them. And other ones, some of the people have had some personal issues, so meetings had to be canceled. But everybody, I think, at this point has been proffered an offer, and there's maybe some minor negotiations going on right now with the property, with the acquisition agent, but I think hopefully my hope is by the end of this month, and we'll have the rest of them taken care of.
Okay, thanks. And do we have a start date for this?
We started the actual utility portion of the project. As you know, we awarded that last month, and we expect to get the bid package out for the road widening early next year. It won't be able to start until the irrigation season begins and the utility work is completed. So we're looking at maybe April, May timeframe for the actual road part construction to begin.
Okay.
Okay, any further questions? I'm ready for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 36-2022, the right-of-way acquisitions for parcels 12, 13, and 18.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? We'll do a roll call again. Councilmember Call.
Aye.
Councilmember Dixon.
Aye.
Councilmember Saunders. Councilmember Morse.
Aye.
And Councilmember Schwab.
Aye.
Okay, action carries, resolution carries forward. Thank you. Thank you, Ed.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, we'll jump back up to item number 12. And I think, not sure we'll have anyone for public, but we'll move into that. Before we get into too much discussion on that, we'll open it up for public hearing for the purpose of receiving public input on readopting a procurement policy. So I need a motion to enter into public hearing.
So moved.
Yep.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll move into public hearing. Anyone want to speak on that? Seeing none, we'll close public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we're out of
We
public
froze them
hearing.
all out.
Okay.
There's no public.
Now we know what to do.
We've run out. So number 13 on here, action on public hearing for adoption of ordinance 36-2022 for readopting a procurement policy. Matt, would you like to walk us through some of this?
Yes. As been discussed in the past during work sessions and such, the city doesn't have a truly codified purchasing ordinance or procurement ordinance. This is something I highly recommend. It's what we do. Is we buy things to help affect the goals and actions of the city, and having it codified is important to provide consistency, provide direction for staff, understanding by contractors and vendors, and also providing them an appeal and protest system if there's any questions on that. Council's been helpful in helping us facilitate this. And with the amendment, the proposed ordinance, Mayor brought in several just clarifying languages that we've provided a hard copy of that to you. And we've separated that into 3 amendments. The first proposed amendment would clarify and take care of a few things that just finally just solidifies all the language. We'd be happy to go through some of those. But that first amendment is just clarifying, correcting syntax, and making sure we flow correctly. The second amendment is to add some specific language on fiscal responsibilities training and audit, where it specifically states the city manager will be auditing the purchases made under this ordinance and report on a quarterly basis to the council. And then the mayor had proposed a sunset clause where this ordinance would expire without unless the council reviews it on a regular basis. And so would be happy to kind of take a review of each of the amendments as necessary as we go through, and answer any questions or any additional questions and amendments that the council might have on their own.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate that. So open for comments.
I didn't see any real issues with the changes. I think those are good things. I think the sunset clause is good because we need to make sure that we're reviewing it and making sure the amounts are correct in there. So I like that change.
Can I speak on the sunset clause,
Sure.
Mayor? I actually legally have a huge issue with the sunset clause.
Okay, never mind. I don't like the sunset clause at all.
And here's and I'm not saying that you don't have something in there that says you're going to review it every couple of years, but the problem with saying that, hey, if we don't take, if there's no action, then it terminates. Well, if somebody screws up because we're human, and we don't have a purchasing policy, and then we're continuing to need to purchase stuff, and then we don't have one, and so you have that problem, or you have the problem of if the council gets into an argument over how to amend it, if there's issues, we still don't have a purchasing policy, and it could be, a couple months before you work out your differences. Like this, it's taken from October, when you first started talking about it, until now. If for some reason you started talking about something in June, with amending this, and you don't have a motion, you're without a purchasing policy. And that, what are you gonna do? You have to purchase things with the city, either like, the Parks Department or the, streets, or just, there's any number of things that have to be purchased. And so, I would maybe recommend you amend the language so it says that the city council will review it every 2 years, but not do the whole absent a vote, then we don't have one. Just legally, I just don't know what's going to happen if.
That was my concern as well when I saw it, that if for any reason it doesn't show up to the city council to review, then all of a sudden we just don't have one, and that can't be a good thing. So I get what the mayor is trying to do. I wonder if there's a better way to do something like that doesn't get rid of the policy because we didn't vote on it.
Yeah, and I understand that, and but the idea behind it was, and that's why it was presented, was that it does force us to look at it. One thing is, I've talked to Matt about that we have had, some history of bypassing some things and not really reviewing or looking at them. It's important that we look at it. I'm fine if the council decides not to do that. But again, I want to make sure that this is an important one, and I think that it shouldn't really be up to the council. It should be something that Matt would bring to us in advance, and if we had changes. If we ended up having changes that were pertinent in this ordinance, for example, like we talked a little bit about the audit. I know that was something that was concerning as well, because we don't do that now. we don't audit things as much. But the idea, hopefully, is that, you know, we get a chance to review those things. It may come in that year and a half time that this sunset clause would hit in '24, when it runs around for June 30th of 2024, that we would have the opportunity to look at these things and say, hey, we don't need this anymore, or this would be something that we want to improve on. But it's more of a way, and if there's another way you want to, you know, put it in place, that's fine. I just thought I would add that in because it seemed like it was super important to make sure that we get this right. And I do understand Amy's legal reasoning for it, but that's something we would have to act on.
So, Amy, just if something by chance happened and we didn't have it, it expired, we would just have to redo it again, but we couldn't buy anything until we reinstated the ordinance, or how would it work?
Well, that's the problem, is that it would throw a whole bunch of things into disarray, because either if we didn't realize that we needed to do this for whatever reason, because we forget, and we don't have one, but we're continuing to purchase, it could be, I could see a bigger problem with, say, the bidding, the RFPs, you know, that sort of thing, because we don't have a policy. If we realized that, yes, we need to do this, and you guys the city council started discussing it, and you couldn't come to a consensus, and June 30th passes, then yeah, everything could be sitting at a standstill until.
How about if we add some language that says that it's the intent that we'll renew it, however often the council wants to put that, and that if council fails to review it, I don't know if we want to say 120 days before the expiration date, that it will automatically renew as is.
My biggest, well, I mean, you don't even need that language because that's what will happen anyway. I don't even think you need that language. My biggest concern with this is that it will fall off of something. Somebody forgets, the council doesn't remember,
right?
Whatever it is. But hold on a minute. And if we don't review it, then we don't have a policy, and people can just buy whatever they want because we now don't have a policy. Or not that they would buy whatever they want, but they would do things that they wouldn't ordinarily be able to do because the policy is now no longer in place.
Yeah.
That's my concern.
Well, under my language, if you didn't do anything, it would be in place because it automatically renews if we don't change it. But the intent is built into it that we will review it. And if for some reason we don't within a time period, then this ordinance as it is will continue. I have automatic renewals in my contracts at work all the time, and they work great. So it forces you to kind of come to the table on both ends to say, if we're going to change it, we have to get talking before this point.
And then who is it? I mean, I guess I see where the mayor's coming from. It scares us into making sure that it's renewed, right? Like, I don't know a better way to put that, but it's like, hey, you have to make sure this is renewed by this date or else it's gone. Whereas I think the opposite of that is that, or the language that you're proposing, and I'm not against that, by the way, is just kind of like, there's no real scare there. You know what I mean? I don't know what the solution is. I get what the mayor's saying, and I get what you're saying.
If you do want to make a change, or you see a need for a change, then you're going to make sure that you get talking about it within the time frame, or it'll automatically renew. Otherwise, we just take it out, and then there's nothing in there to sort of force us to review it.
Can I propose an idea? I would like to see that the city manager provides a detailed audit report on the first Wednesday of each quarter of a calendar year to the council, And then on the third Wednesday, we get to accept that audit. So that gives us 4 times a year that we're going back through and reviewing everything. That way we are seeing it regularly. And if we do not like that, that third Wednesday, we could take action upon it and make a change at that point.
I like that because I was just sitting here thinking, like, what if we instead find a way to put this as a duty or task or
It's an
that
action
it's
item,
on the
yeah.
city manager and not so much that it's just, I guess I worry that when things are written into ordinance, they pass and we all move on and we go on to the next thing and people forget about, oh, we've got a date in here that we have to come back to this on. That if instead we put it as a duty or a task for the city manager or city staff, then maybe it's something that, you know, or part of a goal or whatever, then maybe it's something that we will actually remember or see.
You could add, so in the city manager section of the ordinance, in like 31.21 under duties, if you go into B, and it is 4, purchasing and claims. Currently it reads, the city manager shall act as purchasing agent for the city and as such shall implement and enforce all provisions of the ordinances and policies of the city relating to purchasing. You could amend and add in the language that, that Ryan said about when those audits have to be
Quarterly
provided.
audits.
Yeah, have to be provided. You could put it in like right there, besides referencing it in the purchasing policy as to that time, as to, so then you have it in both places. You have it under duties and you also have it under the purchasing policy.
Well, or under audits, the city manager, and then add the time frame to that. The city manager shall report to the city council on the findings of such audits on the first, whatever, Ryan, what did you say, of every quarter? I mean,
First
it's
Wednesday of the
there.
month, yeah.
It's there. I think if we just spell it out a little bit more. I just worry if for some reason there was an earthquake or something and we didn't have it, and, you know, just, we didn't have a meeting, that we would be without a purchasing policy. So I agree that if we can get this out and look at it at a quarterly basis.
I think that's fine, but just to be clear, the proposal that I'm proposing would not leave us without a purchasing policy.
Right.
It would basically give us a time frame where we need to review it. If for some reason we can't or don't, it would automatically renew.
And the effect mainly is going to be on RFPs and things like that. That's the main effect of losing it. There's other things, but
Right.
you can still purchase things. I just want to make that clear. You can still buy things. It's just that you're limited on how you go about bidding if you don't have that policy lined out.
Yeah. But it would be in place. Unless you actively decide to change it within a time frame, it would always be in place.
Well, I understand what you're saying because on the contracts, some contracts that I used to do had those types of language in there. You had a certain period of time that it needed to be changed. If not, it just reverted back. So I understand that side of it too. I think again, it's up to the council. I just wanted to make sure that we're not letting something like this important slip away, even though it puts a timeline on it. That's all. And it's not that it has to go through that way. I'm open by any means for anything to work through this so that we have a good policy for this. But there was quite a bit of time spent just trying to look through this and make sure that we're trying to get it right, because the advantage that I have overall is that, I sit and go through the checks and I see all those things, and I do meet with Matt regularly on a weekly basis usually. So I kind of say that's an advantage, I guess, because I see and have to work with some of the things that are going through. So that's why I put some of this together and change some of the documentation. But that's just my explanation is all, just so you know.
Yeah, I like, you know, that we have something in there that would force us to look at it. So, and what are your thoughts, Matt?
I have reservations on a sunset clause. This, as I've shared with the mayor, and we respectively disagree on the approach on that. I understand his intent. This is something new. It is an ask for some trust and responsibility for the department heads and the city manager to approve at a higher level, and I appreciate that trust and understand there needs to be some give and take on that. Sunset clauses are usually done in a contract situation, like you mentioned. A lot of contracts have sunset clauses where if the two parties are happy, it just continues. This is an ordinance. It's a law. And usually you don't see sunset clauses in law unless it's like an emergency response where we need to get something in place very quickly and we just want to make sure we don't overstep and we set this up so it expires after a little bit or gives us a chance of review. You could go big scale. The Patriot Act had a sunset clause because it was a severe limitation on civil rights in a direct response to terrorism. On the other side, you can have other things where you have sunset clauses with a union in a city when there's a shortage of funds, and they suddenly say sunset clause, no overtime will be paid, and so they negotiate something in those ways. I have reservations on a sunset clause on an ordinance, which is really a bedrock guiding doctrine for staff and providing understanding for contractors. Even if you were to review it at the end of this term or on a regular basis, the process for changing it would still have to be the same way: public hearing and offering an amendment to the ordinance. And so it doesn't circumvent any. If we need to change it, we got to change it. It just more or less gives us a nuclear option saying, we're not going to do this, which is fine for contracts. We're just going to say, it doesn't work with us to work together anymore. That's a weird conversation to have about a purchasing ordinance, which provides the guidance and understanding for staff and vendor and contractors to develop. So
yeah,
that's
I'm
my
not proposing
reservation.
a sunset clause.
But I really, I think it's good practice to set it up to say, we're going to review this every 2 years, and we put this on there, or even during the budget system, similar to what we will be getting around to with the consolidated fee schedule, where every year we just take a look at it and say, all right, and that's not a sunset clause, that's just we're going to review this as a practice in there. I understand the intent. This is a change. It's new, and it would be nice to have a little bit of an option to do it. I'm just afraid that that outlying twilight zone ending where if something didn't happen, then we don't have an ordinance, and we're going through the same process to adopt one again.
Okay. Again, I'm not proposing that it would end.
Mm-hmm. So.
But merely that we would have to review it in order to, in a certain amount of time in order to change it. Which we'd have to do anyway.
It'd be more helpful to maybe do what Ryan suggested with the other and say,
yeah,
by
if we're reviewing it
on this date, the city manager will bring this back to the city council. It'll be
and then if we see any issues,
Yeah, I like that better.
But then it won't. But then it's not. We won't have one if something bizarre happens. But that it's put in there that this is the date. That it'll be the first Wednesday of whatever month, the first Wednesday of March of 2024, and
the end of the quarter or the beginning of the quarter.
So are we looking at a quarterly review of the ordinance or a quarterly audit
The
review?
audit, a detailed audit report quarterly.
But then a 2-yearly review, you know, of the
I don't know about
full
that, so
policy.
I don't know that I want to review this without understanding what the audit looked like, right? If we don't look at the audit, there's no point to even review this. So I want to see the detailed audit on a scheduled timeline, and then have the next council meeting have the ability to make a change, a review, or open, or whatever we need to do if we see something that's not going in the direction that we thought it would. That's how I see it.
Because you can amend it at any time.
Correct.
I mean,
Correct.
You don't have to wait for 2 years to say, well, this isn't working.
Well, we focused on a couple things. Is there other things in here? We do have a few pages. Is there anything else you want to discuss as well, or think about those a little bit? The other option is, you know, if you want to go through this, because you guys did just receive this, right? This copy, you can table it. You can, you know, make some changes if you want and think about it a little bit more, but it's up to you.
I would agree with that. I would like to table it and maybe take a longer look at
Is
it.
that a motion?
I move that we.
Just 1 second.
Sorry, I did that. I did it too quickly.
Very dutiful resident pointed out that we have 2 ordinances that are 36-2022. The
Yep.
procurement and the right-of-way, and the right-of-way we already adopted, so we need to,
Oh, yeah.
Aren't they
it's
called an
resolution,
ordinance,
one's an
both of them?
ordinance.
so they're different. Okay,
Yeah.
same numbers.
Yeah, we keep the lists of ordinances and then resolutions. and
Gotcha.
They do use the same numbers.
Okay.
So we're catching up. We're neck and neck with resolutions and ordinances this year. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but
Excellent.
we're neck and neck.
Okay.
Well, we're busy. Anyway.
But just,
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I make a motion that we table ordinance 36-2022, readopting a procurement policy.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? We'll do a roll call on that one. Let's see, Councilmember Dixon,
Aye.
Councilmember Morse,
Aye.
Councilmember Schwab,
Nay.
Councilmember Call,
Aye.
Councilmember Saunders.
Aye.
Okay, got a motion carries 4-1. Okay, thank you very much. Let's move on to 17.
And Mayor, just one point on that. I have a red line document with the changes that the mayor had proposed. I'll send that out to you first thing tomorrow, so you can start looking at and get that in, including the language that was in this document that was forwarded to you this afternoon.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. And again, I appreciate the discussion on it because we want to just make sure we get this right. That's all. Let's go to 17 on here, item 17, our executive session. The council will enter into a closed meeting for the purpose of a strategy session to discuss the character and professional competence of an individual and pending or reasonable imminent.
Intimate.
Okay, there we go.
Maybe you want to stick around for that one. So moved.
I'll be practicing that a little bit later. Litigation to be in accordance with the provisions of Utah Code 52-4-205. So we'll need a motion to move into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on that? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll move into executive session.
Yeah, we're gonna get
Yeah.
warmed up.
Got a couple heaters in there, and it's a smaller room, so hopefully it's
Should be good.
And Emily, I know as you get these down, the writing gets a little bit smaller and smaller on here, so you gotta be good. Well, getting a little bit
Your
older, man.
handwriting's just as small.
I hate wearing glasses. What are you laughing at over there? Just 'cause you got a gun.
Yeah, we did. We're gonna need some money back. We'll talk to the sheriff. I know, yeah. There it comes, right there. We can't heat the building.
home.